Welcome to Traveler's Tales. I am your host, Greg Alonzo. Today I will be your guide through history as we take a look at Roman torso armor. Before we begin, just a quick reminder that we post new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday with special editions on Thursdays. Don't forget to hit the little bell icon to be notified each time we post new videos. Moving right along, mythology tells us one thing, while archaeology tells us another. Not all troops wore torso armor. Light infantry, especially in the early Republic, wore little or no armor. The reason was twofold. First, it allowed for the swifter movement of light troops. Secondly, it just boiled down to cost. However, legionaries of the 1st and 2nd centuries used a variety of armor types. Some wore mail shirts, which was called lorica hamata. Later legionaries wore scale armor, which was called lorica scamata, and a third style of armor was eventually developed that consisted of laminated strip cuirass. This style of armor was known as lorica segmentata. The last type was a complex piece of armor which provided for better protection over other types of armor previously used by the Romans. Though next to impenetrable from direct hits and missile strikes, the lorica segmentata was uncomfortable to wear. This was primarily because it had no padding. Thus, the legionaries began wearing a padded undergarment known as the submarlis. Another drawback with the lorica segmentata armor was that it was expensive to produce as well as difficult to maintain. Let's begin by taking a more detailed look at early armor worn by the Romans. Throughout the period of the Republic and the early Empire, lorica hamata was the standard issue. This type of armor was mostly manufactured out of iron or occasionally bronze. Its strength lay in that small rings were linked together, alternating close washer-like rings and riveted rings. This produced a very flexible, reliable, and strong armor. The lorica hamata had shoulder flaps and was designed very much in the style of the Greek linothorax. Overall, the lorica hamata was a complex piece of armor consisting of thousands of rings. Although labor-intensive to manufacture, it was thought that with good maintenance, this chainmail type of armor could be used for several decades. Its utility was such that the later appearance of the famous lorica segmentata, which afforded greater protection for a third of the weight, never led to the disappearance of the ubiquitous mail. As time went on, the army eventually reverted back to the lorica hamata once the segmentata had fallen out of fashion. Now let's take a look at the lorica scamata. This was a type of scale armor used during the Roman Republic and later periods. It was made from small metal scales sewn to a fabric backing. It is typically seen on depictions of standard bearers, musicians, centurions, cavalry troops, and auxiliary infantry, not forgetting that it could also be worn by regular legionaries. A shirt of scale armor was shaped in the same way as the lorica hamata, mid-thigh length with shoulder doublings. The individual scales were known as scamae and were made of either bronze or iron. Sometimes the armor was made of alternating scales. Since the scales overlapped, the multiple layers gave good protection. The shirt was constructed to be opened from the side or in the back so that it would be easier to put on. To ensure safety, the opening was secured by ties. With regard to the lorica segmentata, this type of body armor was primarily used in the early Roman Empire. The armor itself consisted of broad ferrous strips fastened to internal leather straps. The armor surrounded the torso in two halves and were fastened in both the front and the back by means of brass hooks and leather laces. The upper body and shoulders were well protected by additional armor. As previously stated, the lorica segmentata was much lighter and offered excellent protection. However, it was uncomfortable to wear. This style of armor was also very difficult to produce and repair. In classical antiquity, lorica masculata was also popular. This design was meant to depict the idealized male physique. This type of armor first appears in late archaic Greece. It was quite popular and became widespread throughout the 5th and 4th centuries before the Common Era. Originally, it was made from hammered bronze or boiled leather. It is popularly depicted in Greek and Roman art and is worn by generals, emperors, and deities. This brings us to the end of Roman torso armor. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Traveler's Tales. If you enjoyed this video, please consider joining our channel by becoming a sponsor. Your support will enable us to continue putting out quality videos, and buying me a coffee always makes my day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Traveler's Tales. This really is the best way to help our channel grow. Until we meet again at the crossroads of folklore and fact, Kartistos.